call this the Monday, April 6th meeting of the Paducah Planning Commission to order and ask if you would join me in standing to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Summers, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Benberry.
Here.
Commissioner Chapman.
Here.
Commissioner Griffin. Commissioner Heath.
Here.
Commissioner Kaler.
Here.
Commissioner Rhodes.
Here.
Chairman Wade.
Here. Our first item is the minutes from the March the 2nd meeting, which I believe Commissioner Benberry has those.
I move that the reading of the minutes for March 2nd, 2026 be waived and that the minutes of said meeting as prepared by staff are approved as written.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I hope everyone has had a chance to review those minutes. Any corrections, additions, deletions? Hearing none, Mr. Summers, would you call the roll on the motion?
Commissioner Benberry.
Aye.
Commissioner Chapman.
Aye.
Commissioner Heath.
Aye.
Commissioner Kaler.
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes.
Aye.
Chairman Wade.
Aye. Our next order of business would be continued petitions, which I'm not aware of any. Then we'll move on to new petitions. The first being a text amendment that Mr. Summers will give us a report on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a text amendment pertaining to the R3 medium density residential zone. The particular items we're proposing to change is expanded principal uses for a better transition between the R3 and R4 zones, a smaller principally permitted lot size, which is to help development on, it says on in your staff report, the south side, but it would be the north side historic district as well, and the introduction of corner stores, which were once the hub of activity for neighborhoods. And across the nation, that's something that planners from big cities, small cities, coast to coast are taking a look at and are bringing back. And that's actually something that our neighbors in Covington and Louisville are leading here in the state of Kentucky and other places like Raleigh, North Carolina, Spokane, Washington. That's another hotbed of places that have corner stores coming back. So currently, the R3 zone is much like the R1 and R2 zones instead of building a bridge to the high-density R4 zone. What I mean by that is there are uses that is the same in the R1, R2, and R3, and then there's a huge leap to the R4 zone. So what this text amendment does is it puts some uses as conditional uses in the R3 zone and or that is conditional uses now, moves those up to principal uses, which better defines that bridge between the zones. In your staff report is a map of Louisville and their corner stores. I did want to point that out. And another thing about the corner stores that I would specifically like to point out is at the June 9th, 2025 meeting, whenever this body adopted the South Side Plan, y'all may remember this about the comments being made about the grocery stores that they had on the south side. So once we lose that history, obviously we never get it back. So this is intended to help save our history in the form of corner stores. Specifically, the Southside Revitalization Plan states, encourage a balance of commercial uses that serve nearby residents and the entire community, such as corner stores. There's examples in there of ones we've lost and some examples that still exist. And also included in there is an example from Spokane, Washington, of a corner store that was revitalized. Most lots in the R3 zone are non-conforming in terms of lot size and frontage. Back in 1967, whenever the zoning ordinance was adopted, the planners at the time used a one-size-fits-all type approach. 50-foot lots, 8,000 square feet minimum, and those just simply, for the most part, didn't exist on the south side or north side. You've typically got more along the lines of 6,000 square foot lots, 40-foot width at the street. So they didn't emulate what was actually on the ground at the time. And it created a lot of nonconformities, which over the years, that's something that adds up as far as what we have to deal with, the Board of Adjustment has to deal with. It can roll into trying to get loans for the banks taking a look at, hey, y'all need a variance for this, and assume some risk, as opposed to a house fitting on a lot that they don't need a variance for. A bank's going to be more willing to lend money for something that they can go ahead and build. Now, within the City of Paducah, McCracken County Comprehensive Plan, it states specifically, define and permit within the city and county zoning codes a range of missing middle housing options for each residential and mixed-use zoning district, including analysis of allowing smaller lot sizes, i.e. more units per acre, reduced setbacks, and facilitation of other design elements where appropriate. So this text amendment is exactly in line with the City of Paducah, McCracken County Comprehensive Plan. Additionally, whenever I spoke about nonconformities a few minutes ago, the comprehensive plan addresses that, and there's two different paragraphs that speak to that, but the nuts and bolts of that are only the most noxious uses should be nonconformities. Everything else should try to be brought into conformity within the zoning code. And as I stated, although not explicitly crafted for the south side, the text amendment would support revitalization of the area and the north side historic district as well, which would be in accordance with the Board of Commissioners' priority of south side revitalization, which is pursuant to Municipal Order 3028. Additionally, two other priorities, quality housing and quality of life, would be supported by the adoption of the proposed text amendment. So therefore, their proposed text amendment would be in accordance with three adopted regulatory documents, specifically the City of Paducah, McCracken County Comprehensive Plan, the Board of Commissioners' priorities, and the Southside Revitalization Plan. As a note, the performance standards for single-family dwellings, two-family dwellings, and corner stores would carry over into the R4 high-density residential zone. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I will turn it back over to you for the public hearing.
Thank you very much. As he mentioned, this requires a public hearing, and I believe Commissioner Rhodes, you have the motion for that.
I move that this board open the public hearing for case TXT 2026-0002 pertaining to section 126-104 medium density residential zone R3 of the Paducah zoning ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, by voice vote, say aye. Aye. Any opposed by sign, like sign? All right, we are now in public hearing. We'll ask anyone who has a comment to approach the bench and identify the podium over here, excuse me.
Oh, my goodness.
To approach the podium and identify yourself. All right, looks like we have nobody to speak for or against or comment on, so Commissioner Rhodes, would you close our public hearing?
I move this board close the public hearing for case TXT 2026-0002 pertaining to section 126-104 medium density residential zone R3 of the Paducah zoning ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing the public hearing signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by like sign? All right, public hearing is closed. Now, Commissioner Rhodes, would you read the motion on the action, please?
When you want us to make some comments, if we have any,
That would be next.
after this?
Yes.
I move this commission adopt a resolution recommending to the Board of Commissioners that case TXT 2026-0002 pertaining to the text amendment of 126-104 medium density residential zone R3 of Paducah zoning ordinance be adopted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Now, any questions of Mr. Summers on his presentation or about this, or any comments by the commission?
Josh, on section 3, section 2, conditionally permitted uses. Short-term rentals, bed and breakfasts. I would hate to see the north and south side fall into the same dilemma that Lower Town's in. We are inundated. And I won't say that there doesn't seem to be much relief coming. But we've got a lot of a lot of houses in Lower Town that could be single-family dwellings, and they're not.
Commissioner Rhodes, I appreciate you bringing that up. There's actually a bill in the General Assembly right now that specifically Airbnb has lobbied to get in front of the legislatures. And I'm not sure exactly where that bill is, but they are trying to take away local government's ability to regulate Airbnb, short-term rentals, things of that nature. We do have a text amendment ready to go, which would limit short-term rentals in the city of Paducah in different ways by distance and things of that
Did we
nature.
do this about a year ago or a year and a half ago?
We did talk about it, I believe,
Okay, so this is that.
and it's been an ongoing conversation we've had. Text amendment is done, but by direction from leadership, we need to see what the state's going to do before we can enact anything. So that is where we're at, is waiting on the legislature to decide if they're going to enact regulations that would restrict our ability.
Wasn't today the last day of the legislature?
That I
April
don't
15.
know.
April 15th.
I thought today was the last day before it went into the, anyway, okay.
They're on recess now, but they will be coming back.
So to my knowledge, that bill, last I knew, about 2 weeks ago, that bill was still in committee. So if they're going to do something, they need to hurry, obviously, but I've not heard that it's left committee yet.
I mean, we talked about this. It's a problem.
I do agree. Like I say, I've got the text amendment ready to come before you guys, but we waiting on the state is my short answer.
So if they don't do anything, then we're gonna do something.
I would expect us to do something, yes.
Okay,
But this change doesn't affect that current component of
Right.
R3.
Correct. It doesn't, it's still a conditional use in the R3 zone. And so that's not changing. But if the state does takes action or not, then we will need to revise. Certainly, if my preference is for letting us to go ahead and regulate like we have to some extent. That way I can bring that text amendment before you all to take a look at some point.
I got two more questions.
Sure.
Parking. We talked about this when I was in yours one day. So is there gonna be, how are you gonna handle parking? So you got a corner grocery store or a hairdresser, whatever. Do we have that thing where inspection will say, well, you gotta have, 15 spaces or whatever the appropriate number is for this type of business, or did we waive that?
That will actually be waived, and that
That's the
will,
way I read about it. I just wanna make sure.
yes, it will emulate the historic pattern of parking on the street and or walking.
All right, one more. A sandwich shop or a sandwich board can only be in front of a corner store if it doesn't have a projecting sign. I mean, that's fine, but it's gonna get violated from day one. If we ever have a corner store, it's gonna be violated. It's violated it, et cetera, for the last 20 years. Well, this coming October, it'll violate for 20 years. I mean, is it?
That specific language is something we've adopted out of the B2 downtown business zone. And you might remember that we did a text amendment for that 5-6 years ago, which when where you allowed the projecting signs as their own sort of standalone section in the sign code, as long as they didn't have a sandwich board. And that's to keep sign clutter down. So Commissioner Rhodes, I see exactly where you're coming from.
Just saying, we get the less than 12 square feet, et cetera, but we've had a sandwich, we've had the open sign, it's probably 2 foot square on either side which is fine. I'm just saying,
Yeah. But also, I would point out that in the H2 historic commercial zone, there's a lot more dense businesses there, smaller lots. So that would maybe warrant a little bit more signage in that
you
zone.
can always overlook it. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none. Mr. Summers, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapman. Commissioner Heath,
Aye.
Commissioner Kaler,
Aye.
Chairman Wade.
Aye. All right, our next item is a zoning request pertaining to 224 Burger Road. Mr. Summers,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
lead us on that.
This thing would back up. Thank you, council. All right, so hard copy it is. Thank you. So this is a initial zoning request for 224 Burger Road. Currently, the slot is in the county, but it is going to be annexed into the City of Paducah, and it's had its first reading on March 24th, 2026. The site is 16,143 square feet and has a 2,085 currently orthopedic office located there, but the office is vacant and they've moved to Village Square Drive. The petitioner, which is the doctor that owns the building, requests the Planning Commission assign an initial zone of R4 high-density residential zone. And what that is intended to do is to keep it within a medical type use or professional office like an accountant, an attorney, an engineer, something along those lines, which would be principally permitted in the R4 zone. This would be in conformance with the City of Paducah comprehensive plan, which states, continue to explore strategies and provisions for overcoming nonconformities that can stand in the way of beneficial use and reuse of property, including infill development and redevelopment activity. The city zoning classification that touches this lot to the south is R2, medium-density residential zone. However, as of right now, the county classification is commercial. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities, and also what's on the ground now for that lot to be another commercial use, orthopedic office, medical, something to that effect. So both the City of Paducah and McCracken County Comprehensive Plan and the Board of Commissioners' priorities support the initial R4 designation. Two goals of the comp plan are consistent character of land use within areas intended for a particular character type, some rural and suburban through auto-oriented and urban along the community character spectrum, and an ongoing focus on boosting the area's livability for current and prospective residents by offering desired retail and service uses, parks and recreation offerings, and other leisure opportunities and amenities in appropriate locations. The Board of Commissioners' priorities also speaks to this, that a priority is growth pursuant to Municipal Order 3028. What that specifically means is the city should annex properties that further the city's interest and responsibility. The purpose of the R4 zone is to combine residential and business uses in such a manner that it will buffer low-density residential property. The R4 zone applied to this parcel would be keeping within the spirit and intent of the R4, as there's a single-family home to the north, which would buffer it from the other surrounding businesses that surround it. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to turn it back over to you for the public hearing.
All right, thank you. To open the public hearing, Commissioner Chapman, you have a motion for that?
I do. Commissioner Jim Chapman of Paducah Planning Commission offers the following motion.
I move this board open the public hearing for case ZON 2026-0001 pertaining to the initial zoning classification of high-density residential zone R4 for property located at 224 Burger Road.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor by voice vote, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Being a public hearing, I'd ask anyone who has a comment to approach the podium, identify yourself, and present your comments. Having no one to do that, we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I, Commissioner Jim Chapman of Paducah Planning Commission, offer the following motion. I move that this board close the public hearing for case ZON 2026-0001 pertaining to the initial zoning classification of high-density residential R4 for property located at 224 Burger Road.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor by voice vote, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is closed. Now, Commissioner Chapman, I would ask that you read the motion for the action upon this item.
I, Commissioner Jim Chapman of Paducah Planning Commission, offer the following motion. I move that this commission recommend approval for the Board of Commissioners and to adopt the resolution recommending approval thereof of the requested initial zoning of R4 high-density residential zone for property located at 224 Burger Road. I further move this commission to adopt the following findings and facts in support of the said recommendation. 1, the City of Paducah, McCracken County Comprehensive Plan supports the R4 zone and 2 goals in the land use section. 2, a priority of the Board of Commissioners is growth pursuant in MO 3028. 3, the spirit of the intent of the R4 zone would be fulfilled by providing a buffer between commercial uses and the single-family home. 4, the current use of this site is an orthopedic office, which is principally permitted in the R4 zone. 5, no high-intensity commercial development could be developed on this lot in the future, which would help to protect the overall character of the neighborhood.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions of Mr. Summers on his report or any comments regarding this action? Hearing none, Mr. Summers, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Chapman.
Aye.
Commissioner Heath.
Aye.
Commissioner Kaler.
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes.
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry.
Aye.
Chairman Wade.
Aye. All right, our next item is board training, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Summers to provide us that insight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So tonight I'm going to go through some of the basics, and this is a training I've given before, and there's one almost identical to it for the Board of Adjustment that I'll be giving to them as well. So this is specifically for the Planning Commission, but if you have any questions as I go through here, please feel free to interrupt at any time. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you all have. So when we talk about KRS Chapter 100, which is the legislation that this body operates under, it was adopted in 1966. Euclidean zoning is a valid use of the constitutional police power that was adopted by the Supreme Court in 1926 via Village of Euclid, Ohio versus Ambler Realty. And also in 1926, the U.S. Department of Commerce published model legislation under which states and local jurisdiction could regulate land use. And that was the Standard State Zoning Enabling Act. The Village of Euclid is a suburb of Cleveland, and if I remember right, that had to do with an animal farm next door to residential and how that started to promulgate through the court system at the time. And what the Supreme Court found was the government authority over the use of private property derives from the state's police powers over the health and welfare of the public. And as on your course of the Planning Commission, you'll see the term health and welfare and safety and stuff like that. That was specifically founded all the way back in 1926. But officials must establish a logical regulatory scheme of land prior to the use or prior to enforcement of the regulations, which is the zoning code. and must offer some guarantee of legal due process. So as far as types of planning units, there's variations within the Commonwealth. It can be a single city, a single county, and cities and counties in which they are located, groups of counties and their cities, or an area planning commission, which that's under a different KRS, 147-610 through 147-710. And that's areas like northern Kentucky, where they have like joint sewer up there, different planning agencies that join together. My prior job down in the city of Oak Grove was different than what we have, where we had Oak Grove, Pembroke, Hopkinsville, and we all joined with the county. Well, here in McCracken County, obviously it's us and McCracken County itself. So we're a single city, single county, both doing our own thing. However, a joint planning unit can be formed at any time, and any city that excludes itself from the joint planning unit may not form an independent planning unit. So why do we plan? Why do we do what we do and this body does what it does? We look ahead to try to address perceived needs, whether that's housing, sewer needs, where we need parks and recreation. It goes into every aspect of what we do. Work together to develop a coherent strategy, identify infrastructure needs, which I'd mentioned water and sewer, but also roads, enhance economic development and protect property values, and existing land uses such as homes are shielded from incompatible land uses such as heavy industrial. So the kids on the school bus don't want to have to deal with the semi-trucks coming down the road, and the semi-trucks don't want to have to deal with the kids on the school bus. So even though our zoning is pyramidal within the city of Paducah, it does tend to integrate and separate themselves into those types of land uses, which is a plus for us. But the option is there to integrate in meaningful ways. So the role of the Planning Commission is to recommend comprehensive planning and zoning regs to the Board of Commissioners, much like you all did tonight on both the text amendment and an initial zone change or zoning designation, approve major subdivisions, and conditional use permits and variances when they're part of a rezoning petition. And there's twice whenever this body has done that, specifically for a rezoning on Broadway, and the other, I can't recall right now, but I know that we have done it at some point in the past. So the legislative body, which is the Board of Commissioners, reviews and adopts or denies legislation sent to them by this body, and they accept or vacate right-of-way upon a recommendation of this body as well. The Planning Commission must be appointed and in operation prior to engaging in any planning operations, which is governed by KRS 100-133 through 100-182. There's between 5 and 20 members, but obviously an odd number is desirable so that there's not tie votes all the time in case that happens. Some planning commissions could certainly have an even number, but I don't see how that would be very intuitive to that body. The Planning Commission also submits recommendations to the Board of Commissioners, including revisions of and revisions to the Comprehensive Plan, which specifically is the goals and objectives of the Comprehensive Plan, the zoning ordinance, which is text amendments, the official zoning map, and as I mentioned, right-of-way closures or dedications. The Planning Commission has the authority to review, hear, and approve or deny plan elements of the comprehensive plan, which you all may remember a little over a year ago, we did that very thing for the different elements that's required by state law. The text of the subdivision regulations, plats or replats of major subdivisions, conditional use permits when filed concurrently with a rezoning request, and a variance from the development standards when filed concurrently with a rezoning request. So when I say major plat, what exactly does that mean? And y'all hear me say that a lot. So I kind of wanted to drill down a little bit to that and kind of explain that a little bit better. But it's any plat that creates 5 or more lots any plat that creates new right-of-way, a new street, a new thoroughfare, any plat that closes existing right-of-way, and all the above actions require a public hearing. Each case before the Planning Commission will have a staff report that explains the case in detail, and each staff report generally contains the same flow. And there may be other sections such as site history, considerations, and recommended motion will always be the same in the staff report. You might notice in some cases for like zoning, the zoning case is a good one, that there will always be what it is now and what it's going to be proposed to and what those look like side by side as an example. The findings of fact, which we always read, is reflected in the motion. They are required for a denial, but optional for an approval. However, the last couple of years, staff has always opted for findings to be made anyway. And so what that does is that bolsters how you reach that conclusion legally in case it is challenged. Sources for findings can come from the comprehensive plan, the Board of Commissioner priorities, and other documents, such as the Southside Plan, for example. And in our first case, that was mentioned as well, so that is very timely for that to come before you all tonight. The alternative zoning regulation, which we've adopted pursuant to 12111, is a little bit different. And some of y'all have been on this body long enough to remember that there used to be an ordinance before the Board of Commissioners to change the zoning. And this was changed probably 5 or 6 years ago to whenever this body makes that recommendation to the Board of Commissioners, that will stand 21 days after that recommendation is made. There is a process by any aggrieved person. The Board of Commissioners or the zoning administrator can request the Board of Commissioners to hear and decide the case. Otherwise, that will take effect 21 days after your recommendation. The legislative role of the Board of Commissioners, they have the power to adopt the comprehensive plan goals and objectives that have been submitted by the Planning Commission. And you may note that I'm not specifically saying the elements in the comprehensive plan. That is up to this body to guide, direct, and adopt. And the Board of Commissioners, the only thing that they guide, direct, and adopt is those goals and objectives within the comprehensive plan. They appoint members of boards and commissions as submitted by the mayor, and they take action on right-of-way dedications or closures. And continued, they adopt, reject, or amend proposals from the Planning Commission to amend the official zoning map, i.e. a zone change, initiate amendments to the text of the comprehensive plan, zoning ordinance, or subdivision regulations, and initiate amendments to the official zoning map. Now, there is a specific KRS that speaks to that no matter where a text amendment comes from, whether it's a legislative body, this body, a concerned citizen, it always comes before you all first for a public hearing. Staff's role is to administer the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations, prepare drafts of the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations for consideration by this body, keep records and the official zoning map, and I myself am staff to both you all and the Board of Adjustment. And as you know, we also have the URCDA, the Urban Renewal Community Development Agency, where Nancy Upchurch is now planner too. She's staff for that body, and Wes Banks is staff for the HARC now. So 3 different planners, and we all have our functions as staff to those particular boards. You've heard me mention the comprehensive plan. And in Kentucky, each planning commission is required to prepare the comprehensive plan, which is contained within KRS 100 and reviewed every 5 years. The red goals are what is required, which is the goals and objectives, land use, transportation, and community facilities. Those are things that have to be in there, but you can always add to. And some examples of that is the environment, government, business and industry, tourism, and historic preservation. But it can be pretty much anything that the Board of Commissioners, the mayor, in conjunction with the Planning Commission, feels is important to include in the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is a fiscal plan and meant to guide the fiscal development of the jurisdiction, in this case, the City of Paducah, into how, why, when, and where to build, rebuild, or preserve different areas. It's a long-range plan that covers typically 5 or more years. It can be up to 20. Expresses current policies that will shape the future. And a good plan should be slightly utopian, which should challenge and inspire us as what a vision should be and how to get there. And one of the utopian ideas right now is housing. We need it. We need a lot of it. So we're trying to be creative, think outside the box for exactly how to get more housing within the city and county. The comprehensive plan covers the entire city, and obviously the one that we have in place is for McCracken County as well. It encompasses all of the functions that make the city work: transportation, housing, land use, and it considers the interrelationship of those functions. There's a statement of policy adopted by the Board of Commissioners and covers community desires such as quantity of housing within a particular area, that character, location, rate of growth, and it indicates how those desires are meant to be achieved. But ultimately, it's the guide to decision-making. And if you'll notice in my staff reports, and the Board of Adjustment is the same way, I try to make that correlation between you all's action and the comprehensive plan. That way, what we know within this body is that, hey, the comprehensive plan says this, and we have the legal authority with the full backing of the Board of Commissioners and the mayor to act on it in a certain way. So, as far as the zoning scheme, there's 2 parts, map and a text. And of course, as we all know on this body, that Paducah is divided into different zones, which spells out the permitted uses and the performance standards, which is your height, your width at the street, how much you can build on a lot, that sort of thing. And the other things that it includes is landscaping, signage, home occupations. There's a wide variety within those zoning regs. Cell towers is one, accessory dwelling units, and new land uses are coming online all the time. And Commissioner Rhodes, a good point you made was about the short-term rentals. That's another one that we hope to include in here, depending on what the state does. And also the subdivision regulations, of course, the division of land into multiple lots or parcels, and also that supporting infrastructure of what those lots may need, such as roads, water, sewer, that type of thing. So some miscellaneous provisions is mandatory training for staff, planning commissioners, and the Board of Adjustment. And this is the new training that's required. This used to be under a different KRS, which was 147, that guided how you all received your training. And this is what we've adopted via the state in KRS 100. 15 hours every 2 years for staff, deputies, and assistants, plus planning and zoning impacts on housing supply and accessibility. That's an hour that we have to have. And for the Planning Commission, plus Board of Adjustment, 7 hours every 4 years, plus an hour of planning and zoning impacts on housing supply and accessibility. So with that, I know that was a whirlwind presentation, but hopefully it provided a broad overview. I want to thank you all for serving on the Planning Commission. Truly, I know it's a thankless job sometimes, and some hearings can be more difficult than others, as we all know. But I do want to sincerely thank you all, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that anybody may have.
So I've got a question.
Sure.
I know you're surprised. So we're on the planning commission. And we see things every day in the community that we have a question about. So, for example, like Darpro is left, so all those people that live near Darpro, at least for a while, don't have to put up with the smell of dead animals. So what's the best way for a activist planning commission member to say, to raise a question that says, so what is the city doing about this? Is it in a meeting? Is it in your office? Is it nothing at all? Not my job? What?
The easiest thing to do, Commissioner Rhodes, is, oh, no, not in this setting. Is to, honestly, the easiest thing to do is send Carol or myself an email, here's the problem. That way we can research it.
Or a question.
Or
May not
a
be a problem,
question,
may just-
sure.
Yeah.
And that way we can look into it and have an accurate answer instead of a 30-second answer that's off the cuff, to be honest, because we want to give you correct information as opposed to a quick answer, would be the way I would respond to that.
Anyone else? I think this is excellent. Thank you.
Cool.
Good job.
Thank you all, and I'll be giving this to the Board of Adjustment next month, so if you want to come back and see it again, you're welcome to. But thank you all, I do
Do we
appreciate
get credit if we come back?
it. No, this is a one-time.
Good deal. Any other business to come before this commission? Our next meeting would be May the 4th. So may the 4th be with us, and we are adjourned.
May the 4th.
6:11.
All right.
6:11.